Good evening, everybody. Welcome in person. Folks that are here tonight at Sauhegan High School in our theater, and then folks that are listening online to our webinar tonight. This is our official bond hearing for the proposed elementary school projects for the 2024 March ballot. So for the FY25 fiscal year, this will be our bond hearing to talk about the elementary school project, the revisions that we've made, the way that we've looked at that comparatively to what was done the last couple of years, what we presented. So we will get right to that tonight. It's a lengthier presentation. There's a lot of information to go through. Steve, would you go to the next slide for me? No. Oh, there we go. We're all set. So just quick introductions. We have our administration, our staff here. Christine Landworl, our assistant superintendent, is at the end. Amy Facey, our business administrator. Steve Chamberlain, another assistant superintendent. And then our first year superintendent, Mike Berry. For the school board, starting at the M, Tim Theberge, Terry Beam, Shannon Gascoigne, Jason White is our vice chair, and I'm Tom Gothier, our chair for the meetings tonight. We will have our public hearing tomorrow to go over the rest of our articles that we'll be looking at for the deliberative session and the ballot on March 12th, which will include our proposed budget and then 3 different contributions to capital reserve funds for long-term planning and projects here in the district. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Shannon Gascoigne. I will make one other note, Shannon, before I do. We do have our architectural and engineering experts here, Brad Prescott and Matt Wheaton from Banwell Architects and DEW Associates, respectively. They are here tonight, so when we get to the public comment and question session, they will be able to answer any questions technically that we may not be able to handle on the board ourselves. But hopefully 3 years in, we have a pretty good grasp on most of that. So now, Shannon, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, great. And Terry Beam is going to be joining me in our presentation as well. So good evening. Happy New Year. Thank you all for your patience as we worked through that little fire alarm. Thank you for being here. Public hearings provide an important opportunity for your elected officials to share with you proposed budgets and articles that will be up for discussion and deliberation at deliberative session next month, February 5th, with the intent of moving to the ballot in March. The time this evening is designed for you to ask questions and provide feedback and for the board to respond. Your questions and feedback guide the next steps in the process, and we look forward to a robust session as we present and discuss a potential bond request in the Amherst School District. You may be familiar with this process from the past several years, so we'll spend a brief portion of our presentation providing some historical context for those who may be newer to town or tuning in for the first time. And then we'll work our way through the details of the last several months' worth of work, culminating in the proposed request for FY25. Our aim this evening is to provide a comprehensive look at the overall proposal and to answer as many of your questions as possible. As Chairman Gothier mentioned, when we arrive at the public comment portion of the evening, we will draw on the expertise of our fellow board members, SAU leadership, and Mr. Brad Prescott from Banwell Architects and Mr. Matt Wheaton from DEW Construction. Before we dig in, I would like to take a moment to thank the members of this year's Amherst Building and Grounds Committee. This group gave generously of their time, meeting multiple times a month to pore over several iterations of floor plans, designs, and cost. They are an indispensable part of the process, and we are grateful for their participation. You can go to the next slide now, Steve. Thank you. The Amherst School District has grappled with capacity issues for decades. The 20-year-old temporary portables still housing students in the back of Wilkins are a testament to this. Wilkins opened its doors in 1967, and according to A Sleeping Town Awakens, A History of Amherst, New Hampshire, a 14-room addition was needed almost immediately. We've struggled with the need for more space from day one. Today, 57 years later, we continue to operate and maintain an elementary school building that is not appropriately sized for our current student population, requiring the use of detached portable classrooms and temporary office trailers to augment our space. An elementary school building where the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems have been well maintained, but are now at the end of their useful life, with most grandfathered in to meet current codes and standards. As we approach and plan for FY25, the Amherst School Board remains steadfastly committed to addressing the infrastructure needs in our district with long-term solutions. You can advance the slide. Yep.
So, as the slide illustrates, the work being presented this evening is the result and evolution of a multi-year process which began in 2017. We have made significant strides in planning for our facilities. And next slide, please. Last summer, we completed a small section of the roof at AMS utilizing unassigned fund balance. And thanks to your continued support of our capital maintenance reserve fund, we will be completing a larger phase of the roof in HVAC AMS phase 2, I'm sorry. Phase 2 this summer 2024, and tonight we are presenting a revised plan to address our elementary schools. Next slide.
The last 2 years have seen defeated bond request for a new pre-K to grade 5 Clark Wilkins School on the existing Wilkins site. Following post-election resident surveys and resident feedback sessions, the Amherst School Board spent time in retreat during the summer of 2023 focused on facilities. While community support for a bond request has received slight gains year over year, the overwhelming response from you, our community, has been that you understand the need is very real, but the size of the request have been too great. You asked to see fully costed renovation and addition options, and the majority of you responding to our surveys indicated that you would like to see a smaller project brought forward if possible. Additionally, you shared your concerns with us regarding the future of the Clark School and your wonders about the utilization of the Souhegan High School. Thank you for your feedback. The warrant article being presented and proposed this evening seeks to strike a balance between what you have told us and what best meets the needs of our students and educators. Following our summer retreat, we explored the possibility with the Souhegan Cooperative School Board of relocating the preschool program to the annex, with the idea that perhaps they could offer a CTE program for high school students. After a lengthy discussion, it was determined not to move forward with this idea. It is additionally worth noting that the Souhegan Cooperative School Board undertook an updated and exhaustive space utilization analysis of the current square footage use at Souhegan High School. The Amherst School Board is appreciative of the Souhegan Cooperative School Board and all of their work in this area. Their work and discussion revealed that the existing structure is not adequate to fully house an additional grade or grades of students outside of grade 9 to 12 without creating significant crowding and constraints or without requiring the funding of an additional construction on this site. The Amherst School Board does not find this to be a viable solution to address the many needs across our district. The Amherst School Board directed the SAU leadership, along with the Building and Grounds Committee and the Building Administration at Clark Wilkins, to work with our architect and construction manager to develop 2 fully costed proposals. First, a renovation and addition, and a build-to-suit with cost breakdowns for each for a grade 1 to 5 Wilkins School configuration on the existing site. Bringing the 5th grade to the elementary school remains a critical component of the plan to alleviate a bit of the space constraints that we continue to experience and endure at Amherst Middle School. This plan also maintains the Clark School for pre-K and kindergarten, where we will continue to maintain and plan for program needs. Next slide, please.
So numerous design iterations of a reno addition option and a build-to-suit option were workshopped with the Building and Grounds Committee and Administration. Lengthy discussions took place to refine spaces to ensure the most efficient design in both scenarios. The options we will walk you through illustrate the final results of their efforts. Next slide. Oh, wait, never mind. Yes, thank you. So we will begin with the renovation addition option. Really? What happened with the mic thing here? Okay, how's this? Better? Okay. So this is the existing footprint of the building. Next slide. So the initial concept for an addition involved a 3-story addition to the back to meet the space requirements. However, over several meetings with feedback from the Building and Grounds Committee, our architects arrived at an option that built several small additions off the existing space and a two-story addition in the back. This design includes a rework of the front entrance to create a more secure front entrance sequence. And this design maintains many of our existing classrooms. Next slide, please. This is a view of the second floor with grade 5 and associated supports. This design represents a 21% reduction in gross square footage from last year's proposal. Again, this does not include grades pre-K through kindergarten or their associated services. Next slide. This is a view of the site. And you'll see with the existing building in the front that would be partly renovated with the smaller additions and moving all the way back through the back footprint. And next slide, please. So here are some of the advantages and disadvantages of this option, and the full cost project amount of $46,066,363. I should have practiced saying that, huh? It's a big number. So some of the advantages, just to walk you through, I know you know how to read, but we'll say that it retains as much of the existing structure as possible. It relocates the main office to a more secure front area, as I already mentioned. We would still have pods of class grades, which would be able to bring their services, close to each other and their teachers next to each other to collaborate. There's improved energy efficiency with the roofs, windows, HVAC, and electrical, and it's potentially slightly shorter of a construction period by a couple of months. The disadvantages are we would still have some of the challenges we face now with undersized instructional spaces for the rooms that are going to be refurbished in some ways, but their overall footprint would not be changing. So if it's already a small classroom, it would continue to be a small classroom. There's a long walk from the classrooms to the shared services. There's inefficient instructional and support locations. Gym and the cafeteria are not together. There are multiple additions while operating school, extensive repair of existing elements and systems while retaining older walls, and all of the issues that come with going into and finding surprises when you go into existing walls and discover things that are not fun surprises. Smaller playfield, and the spaces below the existing foundation remains untouched. And then this also would push it closer to the wetland setback.
Great. If you could advance, Steve. All right, so now we'll walk through the build to suit option. And if you could advance. Thank you. So this build to suit design maintains and renovates the existing multi-purpose room for use as a cafeteria. This design represents an 18.5% reduction in overall square footage from last year's plan. This was achieved by removing 2 grades from the plan and working through each space in detail to ensure the final floor plan design was appropriately sized. Additionally, adjustments were made to the design for improved value. For example, masonry exterior walls are concentrated to higher visibility areas and locations of resilience, and masonry interior walls are limited to corridors, toilets, and gyms. This design represents a classic elementary school structure. You enter the building into a secure vestibule with the admin window, and I apologize, I know this is a little difficult to see from where you are, but if you see at the top is the cafeteria, which is the existing multi-purpose room. Thank you, Steve. And then the orange right there in the front, that would be your front entrance sequence. So you would enter into the secure vestibule where your administrative window would be. Grades 1 and 2 are located on the first floor with the educational support services adjacent to the grade pods. Additionally, you have your gym separate from your cafeteria, your media center, library, your specials wing in the dark green, special programming, nurse, administrative offices, and then moving on to the second floor. We have grades 3, 4, and 5, and their associated educational supports and administrative offices. The site design, moving forward. takes up a smaller footprint than the option that Ms. Beam just shared with you, and it is 18% smaller than last year's footprint. The building is also further away from the edge of the wetland buffer, which was something that was noted last year as a potential area of concern than previous designs, and it offers an efficient drop-off and pickup loop along with ample parking for staff and school events. The advantages and disadvantages of this design are listed here, along with the total fully costed price of $49.9 million. I won't read through all of those. So going to the next slide, although the costs were slightly higher, the build-to-suit option was favored unanimously by the Building and Grounds Committee and by the Amherst School Board. This option represents a reasonable design that's based on the needs of students and our educational program. This is a functional design that meets our present need and is built to carry us into the future for decades to come. While the renovation and addition option was slightly less expensive, as Terry noted, it created a building that was not as efficient in form or function, and it required extensive repair of existing elements and systems while retaining those older walls. It also did nothing for anything below the existing foundation. So for the dollar amounts that we were looking at, it only seemed wise to go with the option, build-to-suit option, which gave us a completely, mostly new building with the exception of the renovation to the multipurpose room. Okay. So now some fun stuff.
Yes.
Terry.
All right, so next, please. So here is a conceptual rendering of the exterior of the school from Boston Post Road. You'll note that it's a very familiar look and profile to what we have been accustomed to in town for the past 57 years. The fact that this is remaining in the village, we want it to look like it belongs in the village, that it is something that is organic in that area. Here is another angle. And the next one, Steve. Here is an overhead view. And again, you'll see where you're coming in the front, there are some common things in the middle, and then it extends all the way back towards where we currently have fields. Here is a side view. And then here is the anticipated high-level construction schedule. If we were to put it on the ballot this year, and if it were to pass, we would have a groundbreaking in summer of 2025, and then it would be finished in the spring to summer of 2027.
And as we move forward in this process, we will develop more detailed phasing plans to share with you all in the community. Again, this is just a high-level view to give you an idea of the timeline that we're looking at. So now we'll go over some of the project features. We've grouped the project features into 4 categories. This plan offers functional spaces that will endure the test of time, enhanced and present-day safety and security features, new mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, and improved traffic flow. When we looked at creating simple and functional spaces, we began with a re-review of our programs and how they interplay with the space. By removing preschool and kindergarten from the program and by reviewing and adjusting spaces like the gym, we were able to reduce the building footprint 18.5% over previous years, as I mentioned. We reviewed the NESDEC enrollment projections to arrive at a conservative and appropriately sized structure. This plan has a design capacity of 756 students, or 7 classrooms per grade, with 3 flexible classroom spaces built in to be used for programming or classroom space as needed to serve bubble years, student services and program needs, and a core enrollment capacity of 864, referring to our core spaces such as the cafeteria, media center, and gym. Next slide. All right, so the following are aspirational conceptual design photos. We intend to complete a full inventory and audit of our existing furnishings, fixtures, and equipment, and utilize as much of our existing equipment as possible. The spaces we are creating are simple, classic spaces with natural light, improved ventilation, and space. Next slide. This is an example of an art room with the essentials: a sink, and project supplies storage. Next space. Currently, our individual instruction spaces are woefully lacking. This design provides quiet spaces for our educators to work with students in smaller groups or individual settings, free of distraction and noise. The next slide is an example of a corridor with cubbies. In our design, we've moved the cubbies into the hallway to allow for the most efficient use of classroom square footage and keep those muddy boots and jackets out of the workspace. This is an example of what a music classroom could look like. Again, very simple and flexible. An example of the gym that will be dedicated to the physical education program, after-school clubs and offerings, and available for community use on the evenings and weekends. The gym will be accessible through the main entrance, while the remainder of the school may be locked down.
All right, now we will talk about the safety and security features. I know this topic is of special interest to many parents, and as an active member of the Community Emergency Response Team in Amherst, I also believe in being proactive and prepared. Next slide, please. So a new building will feature present-day safety and security features, including the front entrance designed to meet Homeland Security Emergency Management specifications, an improved fire safety system. Tonight, in this building, if you were not here, we had a fire drill. And during the fire drill, it very nicely said, something is going on, please evacuate. With younger children, they have discovered, and this is something having young kids myself over the past years and now a grandson, they respond to voices. So let's say they're in the restroom and the fire drill goes off. Having a voice system, they will respond better to if they don't have an adult right there to give them voice commands. And so this is just one more thing that as you learn more and your systems improve, we would have the benefit of a system like this. And everything would be in compliance with current codes. You heard us use the phrase grandfathered in for some of the things currently in our buildings. Everything in this plan would be up to current codes across the board and an improvement.
Right, so moving on to our systems, the firm of Yeaton Associates out of Bedford, New Hampshire conducted an additional and updated review of our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems and designed the specifications for the option we're looking at today. Some of the features of a new building with new systems, and I'm not going to read them all, but they include things like energy efficient systems, systems that meet present day codes and standards as we keep hammering home, improved ventilation systems, temperature control, automatic lighting controls, and a new switchboard and panel, to name a few. Some of the items that Yeaton and Associates highlighted during their most recent assessment and which will be addressed in this plan are highlighted on the next few slides. So if you'll advance the slide. Okay. So I'm not going to read all of these right now, but if we could just slowly advance through them, maybe go on to the next one. And again. So I found these interesting through all of the assessments that we've done. This was the first time I'd seen photos of the attic and really got an understanding of some of the concerns there that we're looking to address. As you see, the walls don't extend all the way up to the roof, creating some challenges and some areas of concern that would be remedied with this plan. If you go forward again. And again. And of course, our new building, everything would be in compliance with ADA standards. Okay, moving forward. Thank you.
All right, traffic flow. So if you have ever been near one of our schools, near drop-off or pickup time, you will remember it. It is not a terribly great time to be near one of our schools. It definitely gets backed up. And one of the things that this would do is that it would allow for the site design pull 75 cars off the road and up around this loop for the parent drop off and pick up. This is 45 additional cars more than we have capacity for today. Additionally, the parking lot is increased for school and community events. If you have attended classroom parties or come to a very popular event like circus night or anything that draws a crowd, you know that parking gets pretty creative because there just is not enough of it. And so this would allow for us to have those planned larger events and community at our site. And currently at every school event and class party, the fire lane is repeatedly blocked by parked cars and overflow is into the street along BPR, which is not an ideal or safe situation.
Great, thanks, Steve. So for those of you who appreciate a variety of comparisons and considerations, we have attempted to provide you a high-level overview on the next few slides. We appreciate the feedback we receive from our Building and Grounds Committee suggesting we include this type of information. And as we move forward in the process, we will continue to build upon this to seek ways to present this and additional data in a variety of formats. So when the Amherst School Board first brought the project to the 2021 bond hearing, so the same meeting that we're at tonight, but in 2021, there were very rough cost estimates from LaValle Brensinger for the elementary portion of the project. As a reminder, at that time, we were looking at a comprehensive solution to address Amherst Middle School and Clark Wilkins at the same time. That's what you see in the first column. You may also recall that the Amherst School Board did not move this project to the deliberative or the ballot. Instead, they hired a new firm, Banwell Architects, to develop, to go back to the drawing board and develop a project that was a two-story elementary school building at a lower cost. That was the cost presented in 2022 at $52.2 million. In 2022, it was bundled with the Amherst Middle School project as well when it appeared on the ballot. Further confirming the programming needs and analyzing the cost, including construction escalation, the 2023 warrant article was presented for just the elementary school, a pre-K to 5 facility at $54.2 million. That brings us to this year and further revisions. Next slide. So this slide illustrates a high-level comparison between last year's request and this year. So, of course, the big difference really is that we've reduced the grades, we've reduced the square footage, and this year maintains the need for the Clark School. All right, moving forward. So financing. The SAU administration has engaged the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank to assist with financing. The advantage of the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank is that it pools smaller bonds to reduce cost, increased efficiencies, and has a proven record of supporting New Hampshire school districts. The current proposal is level principal at a 25-year term calculated using a conservative 5.5%. Next slide. Thanks. The bond bank has their next sale tomorrow, and we'll have a better idea of possible rates. This is a very conservative estimate that we're using. The New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank is different than a regular bank in that the rate is unknown until the time of sale on the open market, which is why an extremely conservative estimate is applied for planning purposes. We will be able to provide a tax impact based on the January 2024 sale rate, along with the conservative estimate at the deliberative hearing and potentially tomorrow at the budget public hearing if the information is received in time. This slide represents the tax burden over time. You'll note that with a level principal, the payment decreases throughout the life of the bond. So our mission is to engage, challenge, and support all learners. So we can't talk about our buildings without discussing their impact on student learning. Research and evidence-based instructional practices drive the Amherst School District. The project being proposed is a classic design that will serve the district for decades as educational best practices and curriculums evolve. There are no pie-shaped classrooms, there are no movable walls, there's no oddly shaped nooks or crannies, just a classic New England structure built to endure. Our goal is to create an environment where educators can teach to the best of their ability and students can learn to the best of theirs. Right now, Our buildings hinder those things. In our building, we lose instructional time when we place educators on carts traveling from room to room, such as our technology teacher, or when we move programs to areas of the school for which they are not designed, like music, which is currently taking place on the stage, which is located in the cafeteria, which is also the gym. Classrooms with adequate space to spread out allow teachers to reconfigure seating arrangements and allow for a variety of teaching methods. They also make it possible to create private study areas and smaller learning centers that reduce visual and auditory interruptions. The multi-purpose room is currently our lunchroom, PE space, and music room. Our programming schedule is driven by the lunch schedule. Temperature fluctuations and a lack of consistent temperature control are also an issue. The temperature affects engagement levels and overall productivity, no matter what age you are. Loud noises are distracting and even stressful. Noise impairs the ability of teachers to teach and students to learn. According to the EPA, there is evidence that modest changes in room temperature affect students' abilities to perform in tasks requiring mental concentration. And children in classrooms with high outdoor air ventilation rates tend to achieve higher scores on standardized tests in math and reading. Next slide, please.
All right, we are flipping right along. So I'm going to go ahead and, we just had our first winter storm. And the storm reminded me of one that I had after moving to New England from Texas. I was recently reminded that Shannon is also a Texas transplant along with many people in town. And it's kind of a big deal to get used to winter, right? So you get here and sometimes you don't have power or heat for extended periods of time. The first time it happened, I remember a coworker saying, after a week of candlelight dinners, it was no longer romantic. And I personally, when I used to live in Merrimack, I had a home with a wood stove. So I remember us having a really bad storm. And I was grateful because at least I had heat. So we all slept next to the stove. And I would have to wake up at night and make sure we were keeping the fire lit. And we would have to plan for places other than our home to go take a hot shower. We had the presence of mind to fill the tub so we could bucket flush. That was great. And there were all of these things. And at the end of that week, I've never been so happy to see, when I had reflexively been turning on and off light switches out of habit, to actually see a light come on. And I realized that things that normally were maybe 5% of my attention, what are we in the mood to eat tonight? It's a little chilly, turn up thermostat. It suddenly became the majority of my attention was just taking care of the basics of figuring out how and what can I cook on the top of a wood stove? Or better yet, what doesn't need heating up at all? Just dealing with the bare minimum became the focus. We started living farmer's hours, and I'm a night owl, but we were getting up with the sun and going down with the sun. It affected our lives. We did that for a week. We have asked our teachers and our staff to function where a disproportionate amount of their expertise and their creativity is just taking care of the basics. They are not saying, what is the most wonderful program I can have, but what can I make work with what I have available to me, with the space I have available, planning around noise, planning around timing of things that we have to share. We are making them, and as a taxpayer, it should bother you that we have very experienced people having to take their attention and focus on those things and not just be able to focus on what are the absolute best programs for the best results for our students. So I would say that it is absolutely time for us to turn back on the lights and let them focus on what we are paying them to do, which is focus on the best programming possible. And now this project offers, you have asked us as a board to come with you, and you've seen the progression over the years. We have fine-tuned We have worked with the community. We have worked with experts. We have listened to our community, and we have said this is what we believe is the best option at this time that the community can and hopefully will support. This project offers functional spaces with a timeless design, allowing for the implementation of a variety of teaching methods and styles. The design allows for future additions to be built onto the site should an unanticipated boom occur in town. It addresses present-day safety and security concerns, replaces MEP systems with energy-efficient systems, and provides optimal indoor air quality and ventilation. Finally, this design improves the traffic flow through the village by maintaining a smaller footprint while increasing the number of cars that are taken from the road during the drop-off and pickup hours. It is a structure that has been designed to serve the present needs of our student population and generations to follow. Next. Should the board move this article to the deliberative, this is how it will appear, and I will not read it to you. And next. Thank you for your time, and please mark your calendars. Tomorrow, we will be having our public hearing for our overall budget. And then on February 5th, it is our deliberative session. And we will absolutely, at that point, be coming forth with the items that we plan to put on the ballot, and you will get to vote on those items and whether and how they go to the ballot. And March 12th is when we will have our community voting. And we ask that no matter how you vote, please come and make your voices heard and be a part of the process.
All set?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Shannon. Very thorough presentation as always. So with that, we are at the point of the evening now where we will open this up for comments and questions from the public. If you're here in attendance tonight, we have a microphone midway down the auditorium. So if you'd like to come up and share your thoughts or ask a question of the board and if we can't answer it, we do have technical support here tonight. Please feel free to do so. You'll have 3 minutes to state your case at the microphone. You can just say your name, town of residence, and then go ahead and have your moment at the mic. We also have the Zoom offering tonight, so I will open that up as well. We have some folks that are watching. If you'd like to address the group here via Zoom, just have your name and your avatar, turn on your camera. We'll move you over to the panelist after you raise your virtual hand. And then when you give it the go-ahead, you'll have 3 minutes to say your piece as well. So, Brian, you can support that, correct? Okay. So if we have any folks that would like to speak on the Zoom, we can have those folks come on as well. Steve, it does look like we have somebody that would like to speak. So before that, I will offer up the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. If Ways and Means would like to address anything tonight, or if they have any questions or would like to make any comments, I don't think they've voted on everything officially yet. But if they do, feel free to grab the mic there. Caleb, if you have any comments or anything, or if you want to give an update as to where your group sits right now.
Yeah, so we're just taking all in the information in, and we are going to be voting on the 15th of this month. So we'll be putting out our information then. So as of right now, we don't have anything like a report. It'll be coming in less than a week.
Okay, and that is Monday at 5 o'clock at the Brick School downtown.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Joe, want me to move the Zoom person over?
So yeah, if you can do that, Steve.
I tried. I'll try again though. Oh, feeling good.
Okay. So we have Jeannie Lute who had her hand raised. So Jeannie, if you'd like to turn on your camera, say your name and town of residence, even though most of us here know it by now, you'll have 3 minutes once you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear, Jeannie.
Okay, great. I'm sorry my voice sounds so terrible. I've got COVID. I really wanted to be there tonight. I really appreciate the presentation. I'm more excited than ever about this proposal. I think you've hit every single problem that could possibly be fixed and done it efficiently. And I'm especially excited to think about the portables being gone, as they are a security and academic nightmare that we've had to endure for 20 years. I did have one question, and that was, are there going to be any renovations made to the Clark School?
That will
Yep.
be, sorry, Shannon, I'll let you go ahead. Finish
Yeah,
that.
no, that's a great question, Jeannie. When we met in retreat over the summer, the board did identify the fact that the Clark School will still have continuing maintenance needs to plan for, along with a need to address the program space there. So that's sort of a yes, no question. So this project that we're voting on, if it goes on the ballot, would not include funds for any sort of renovations at Clark in the near term. But we do know, and we have recognized and noted that long-term, there will be needs to address there.
And I think, Jeannie, the simple way to put it is that it's going to be handled much like AMS is being handled on a, not a one-off basis, but on a longer-term planning in terms of what needs to be done and how we would go about funding that and building that into our overall facility strategy.
Phased, right?
Phased, yes.
That sounds great. I really sincerely hope that you guys can educate the public about this proposal and that we can get it passed this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online or in person that would like to speak tonight?
No one online, Tom.
Yep, I see that now, Steve. Thank you. I finally found my panelist button. Go right ahead.
Hi, Kelly Schmidt, Amherst. I came tonight only because we have had, as your history showed, past times where stuff has been presented at public hearing, and then for various different reasons as a board, the board decided to pull the thing either. I can't remember, it was at deliberative, or I can't remember the procedural, however it happened, but it never made it to the ballot, essentially. And I just want to implore you guys to, if you've gotten this far, please actually put it to the ballot. I mean, I know deliberative things can happen with the public, but from your side to bring it forward, I think I did my calculations right. But with the current proposal, not a single student who is in the building right now will be beneficiary of, in their academic career, of this new proposal. And I have been following this since my now third grader, and been passionate about us figuring out our things. Was a 3-year-old in preschool, and her little sister, who's a first grader, won't even get to take advantage of this. So the more we delay, the more students that impacts. So from your side, I mean, and I know it's, the public has to be part of it, but at least from your side, please, please, please don't wait another year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Go ahead, sir, whenever you're ready.
Drew Ramo, Amherst. I piggyback on her speech there. It's kind of disappointing. My oldest is a first grader, and hoping my youngest, who's 2, will someday get a new school. But my question for the board is, I know the last time this was on the ballot, it required like a supermajority to pass, and I didn't. It might have said it when you posted the ballot measure, but I didn't. Is this also going to require a supermajority?
Correct.
Yep.
I'd like to follow up and say that if you believe in this, please show up and remind your neighbors, remind your friends in Amherst, because the only way that we can reach a supermajority is if those who believe this is the right thing to do actually vote and make their voices heard.
Did Danae leave already? Yeah. No. Can I get your name for the minute? Sorry. Whoever just spoke.
Sir, just at the end of the night, would you mind just giving Tim your spelling of your name down there? He's taking the minutes for tonight. Thank you. Mr. Purvis.
Good evening, Dwayne Purvis, Amherst. This will be the 3rd time that you bring it before the community. Both times it went down in a landslide. say you've spoken, listened to the community. You need 60% to pass. And in this last attempt, it was 58% that said no. The reasons for that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time having the same discussion over again. I said last year, trying to be restrained. That's not crazy, but insane to be doing the same thing over and over again to expect a different outcome. You have to represent the needs of the entire community, not just a handful. Have sufficient school space in the community to say that one district belongs to them, another district belongs to them, the other district is not even operating at 50%. Is not fair to the entire community. Understand what's going on here, understand where there may be needs, but you guys got to do a better job managing. The number one focus for me as a parent and a community member would be educational outcomes. You can no longer dismiss educational outcomes and somehow shroud it in this to suggest that, oh, you give us this $100 million building, $100 million including interest. Very
85
close to
million.
it. Just said you didn't know what the interest rate was. If 85 to 100, I get that's $15 million. You're tying it up in the district, in the community for the next 25 years, as if there is nothing else that we need in our community. We can do better, guys, and I hope that you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Next. Ellen, when you're ready.
Always an honor to follow Mr. Purvis's comments. I have followed I'm Ellen Bugin. I've been following that comment not for 3 years, for more than 3 years. But there was a time when Dwayne supported our schools. I don't know when things went south for him. But in 2017, our scores were good. They're good now. They've gone down a bit. I think I would implore the building group to look at what has changed at Wilkins during the last 6 years, sans COVID. And I would say the environment has changed considerably. We've made a commitment to bring our special education community into a building to be part of their town. And that did cost money and it did take space. That's a big factor here. Mr. Purvis doesn't address that. The important thing to remember is we have a gym cafetorium music room now. It's got a little other thing added on. So we're going to get to the point where we just can't have music and art anymore. I mean, we have to know that. Those things are going to have to be taken away because we are not putting another portable in the backyard that somebody could easily walk into. And plus, they're not cheap. I don't even think you can get them anymore. So I think we really have to understand we're back at this place because the problem has not been solved. Mr. Purvis would like us to put third graders in the annex at Sauhegan. The Sauhegan School Board wasn't even willing to talk about running a preschool program in there that would be 3 classrooms and would be an incredible asset to the community. That's unfortunate. So we tried to go to the Sauhegan School Board. I was a part of I sent them letters. I thought it was a phenomenal idea. Loosen up this little space at Clark. So you guys have listened to the community and the work you've done has been incredible. So I would encourage you to move this on. Like Kelly said, every single year there are kids who are missing out. I've done a lot of educational research. The environment is third teacher. It is incredibly important that children are in a healthy, well-lit environment where they can move their bodies, where space is bright and light, where plants could grow, where they can wash their hands in their own classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Just as a reminder for folks, if you can just make sure you're directing comments or questions to the board as opposed to other folks in here. Dwayne, I know you jumped up. I don't mean to say that before you did and not cut off Ellen there, but I just want to get that reminder out there for everybody. So, but feel free to come back.
Please speak right into the mic. So people have some-
Appreciate that. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, we've done a lot of research, not just last year, but in prior years. The other thing, when you talk about running out of space, you have projections of, what was it, 13, whatever the number was. You turn out this year to be actually 65 students less than what you projected. Last year, you were 30, the prior year, you were 35 students over. The year prior to that, you were 60 students over. The trend is downward, okay? So what you're doing with the space and how you choose to configure it are the questions that will continue to be asked. And again, I appreciate it, Tom. Going forward, I can speak, if you haven't figured it out, quite well for myself. If I had to do anything with the annex, I would move 7th and 8th and expand the cooperative. I would move 4th grade to the middle school, creating then a lower elementary at Wilkins, an upper elementary at the current middle school, and then a 7th and 8th, which would be junior high, as well as the high school, if I had my way for the record. So I just want to get that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Next.
No one's online.
Thank you, Steve.
Over there next time.
Muzi Hussaini, Amherst.
Thank you, Muzi.
Quick question here. Is it possible for you to show us a comparison of number of rooms that's available today in Wilkins and in the proposed, custom-built solution? How would that vary? Because you just glossed over that you're adding, you're going to get 7 classrooms per grades and 3 multipurpose rooms. How many rooms do you have now? How many you're going to get? And how many are going to be allocated for special needs? Because I do believe special needs students, demand on special needs students is increasing, not only here, but nationwide. But how does that compare? I've been asking for this for a long time now. I haven't seen any basis of calculation.
I believe that
Thank
we've had it before, Muzi, and if we haven't shown that, then I apologize, but I thought we have done that. I don't think we have it tonight, Shannon, if I'm correct, but I believe it's something we can put together and we can get that to you and certainly have it for deliberative. But I know I've seen it before, and so I thought we had shared it already with the public, so. Okay.
A side by side. Yeah, no problem.
Brian Coogan, Amherst. We could play like 3-card Monte and move all sorts of things around the board. But, I think most people recognize like high schools for high school kids, like 9th through 12th grade, middle schools for middle school kids, like 6th through 8th grade, and elementary school kids are typically 5 and below. The reality of it is for the last 30 years since we built this building, the community kind of stopped reinvesting into facilities in the town. So for 3 decades after building this facility, we were hitting up with a bunch of different things. You've got the dot-com bubble in the late 90s burst. Then you get to the mid-2000s, you get a financial crisis. Now we're 25 years removed, and this is the only new facility in town. It's 30 years old. And you've got facilities that are 50, 60 years old that over the last 30 decades, we've continued to not reinvest in those lower elementary, the elementary school and the middle school to maintain them and to support them in a forward way. We just haven't done it. That's a community decision. Boards have actually worked very hard. If you go back and look at the voting records, the boards have put forward proposals, warrant articles to upgrade all of these facilities, and the community has continued to vote them down. So we're at a position where the community needs to step up and recognize that they have an accountability back to these communities here to reinvest into our facilities. Otherwise, it's just going to degrade and crumble. And unfortunately, when you have school systems in a community that goes downward like that, people don't stay here. It unfortunately becomes a weakened community. And I think Amherst is better than that.
Thank you, Brian. Still seeing nobody with their hands raised online, so we will keep it with the folks that are in person tonight. If you'd like to speak, you can go to the microphone. Give it another minute here. Okay, last call for anybody that is online tonight that would like to share their thoughts. Seeing nobody, last call internally tonight. Okay, I will take silence as golden. So this is step one of what will be a multi-part series of events for us to get articles to the deliberative session and then to the voting ballot on March 12th. Tomorrow night in the Learning Commons, which is on the second floor here at Sauhegan High School, we'll have the public hearing where we will have a brief review of the bond articles you saw tonight, but then we'll also go over the proposed budget that we'll be presenting on Article 13 in the ballot on voting day. And then we will also review the 3 capital reserve funds, one that's been continuing for a while, and then 2 new ones that we're proposing to set up for long-term planning and project needs within the district. So that is tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in the Learning Commons, 5 to 7. And you'll be able to, we'll have Zoom comments available as well as in-person commenting available as well. But for tonight, I want to thank Shannon and Terry for their presentation. Thank everybody for coming tonight. Brad and Matt, thank you for coming down as well. I appreciate you guys coming down and volunteering your expertise as needed. And we will continue tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in the Learning Commons.